What is up and welcome back. If this is your first time watching, we are your Emerald Coast relocation team, and in this video right here we're going to be covering 8 different things why you shouldn't relocate into the Emerald Coast. Now I'm also going to be speaking from a point of we actually moved into the Emerald Coast about a year ago. Those of you who watch us, you already know this. I think it's good to reference that because I feel like there's so many people in the Emerald Coast who have been used to this for so long, they really don't get to point it out as much as we do. We look at it and we're like, you know what? Love the Emerald Coast. Ultimately, we've not regretted the move at all, but there are some things that we feel like we should point out to anyone who is considering moving here. Now I'm going to count down. Make sure you stick around to that first one because this one, I guarantee this will probably separate maybe 50, I don't know, maybe 70, 30% of you, something right around there. But the number 8 that we are going to be covering is going to be talking about that tourism. And you're like, hey, you moved to the Emerald Coast. Obviously, there's a shit ton of tourism that is concerned that we might be worried about. But I'm going to approach this in a different perspective where in Colorado, because that's where we came from, we did get tourism, but ours was in the winter time. And when it was in the winter time, the majority of it was up in the mountains. So we were away from it, right? We really didn't see it too often. The only thing that we really experienced was the traffic going up I-70 for everyone who were hitting those ski slopes during season. Whereas here in the Emerald Coast, the tourism's a little bit different because we are out in this little peninsula, this little thin piece of land where you can't really get away from it too much. It does happen majority on the beaches. Yes, they have all those resorts on the beaches, but you got to think about this. Whether you're living in, Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton Beach, all these different areas, although it's different because I feel like Fort Walton Beach caters to those tourists a lot more than Navarre and Gulf Breeze does. You have people who have Airbnbs. And so when you have these Airbnbs, the tourists are going to be staying in those Airbnbs where then during the day, they go out to the beaches. So you are still going to experience that tourism. There's really not too much area for the tourists to get away from. And then a big reason that you move into the Emerald Coast is you want to take advantage of the beaches, and you have all the tourists there on the beaches during high season. I will say though, okay, as locals, we have our spots that we have picked out, right? Where it's like, all right, we know that the tourists are all going to be in the main parking lots of all these different areas. So that's where we want to avoid. So we have our special spots that we like to go to. They are starting to get a little bit more overcrowded though. And we actually just realized it's this last weekend where we're like, holy crap, our parking lot that usually is, about half empty is filling up pretty full, and it's crazy. Everyone is kind of starting to get word of where all these local spots are, and then now the tourists take advantage of those a little bit more. And then also with that tourism, and what we personally experienced this last weekend is, okay, I understand when you do come down to the Emerald Coast, when you enjoy I think that they are the best beaches in the country. You get a little bit in a party mode, right? And so we realize the trash, so we're consistently having to pick up the trash after the tourists who have too few many adult beverages, and you see red Solo cups everywhere, and so we're trying our best to kind of clean up. But then also something we realize is you got these tourists who decide they want to bring down this huge boombox. I have a family, and the last thing I need is this huge boombox pumping out a bunch of music that my kids really shouldn't be listening to.
Triple stamp a double stamp. You can't triple stamp a double stamp, Lloyd. You can't triple stamp a double stamp. Lloyd.
And so now we're kind of looking at, okay, you know what? Now we got to kind of find some different spots because the tourists are starting to find out where these local spots are more and more often. And then another thing along those lines too is during tourist season, our grocery stores definitely do get emptied a little bit more as opposed to when it's off season, especially when you have like Memorial Day is insane here. And our grocery stores, you better go shopping the week beforehand because they come in and they empty out the grocery stores with all of our food, with all of our beach chairs, with all that stuff. And it's where you have to wait for it to come back in to get resupplied, hoping that you don't have another huge event coming up. Good thing is Memorial Day, we really don't have anything big until the 4th of July, until Independence Day. But that is something to be aware about when you are living in the Emerald Coast, that like I better get my grocery shopping done right now, like a week beforehand, otherwise I'm going to be going in there not being able to get the goods that I really do need. The other thing I'm going to hit on too, and I'm actually going to dive in a little bit deeper into the restaurants or the amenities in the Emerald Coast, is when you do have this tourist season, all those restaurants on the beach, I mean, you're looking at an hour to 2 hours wait time. And so you really take advantage of those restaurants on the beach or in these popular areas more during off season. We just got a Senior Frogs put in over at Pensacola Beach. That place is gonna be hopping like crazy. And again, as locals, we do have a few of our local spots that the tourists don't know too much about that we do like to take advantage of when we are in tourist season. Real quick, guys, I'm going to jump in here. If you are planning on calling the Emerald Coast your next home, we have assembled the best team of relocation experts to help you out with all your real estate purchases. Just give us a call or text at that phone number right below. Right below right there. We are always looking forward to helping you out with your real estate purchases in the Emerald Coast. But if you're not quite ready to purchase, make sure you follow along by hitting that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. Notification bell that way you're notified every single time that we put out a brand new video. Now, the 7th reason why you should not move into the Emerald Coast is going to be those lack of amenities, kind of piggybacking on what I just mentioned in regards to the restaurants. Now, here's what we have noticed being down here is that, yes, there are restaurants in these areas that are not on the beach, but the majority of your variety is going to be either on the beach or like downtown Pensacola in these downtown areas where all the tourists are hanging out. So you're going to have those long wait times. With that, you don't have too many local amenities. We have our local restaurants and places that we do love going here, but after a certain amount of time it starts to get a little bit old when you want to eat out, and that's why you like going out to the beach, experiencing some of the variety that they do offer in those areas. And then also for looking at shopping, I mean, for the most part you only have 2 malls. So you have like Cordova Mall, which is over in Pensacola, right outside of downtown, and then you have the Santa Rosa Mall over in Fort Walton Beach. Outside of that, majority of it is your boutique shopping, or you got Bells and all that stuff, your Walmarts, all your typical box stores. You have that shopping as well too. But we were just so used to where we came from, you had all kinds of different malls to choose from. We literally had like 2 different malls within a couple miles of where we lived, and so not having those amenities has been a bit of a struggle. But it's also one of those things that it's not something that we're like, oh my gosh, I hate it so much because I don't have my Top Golf down the street or nothing like that, or Costco, which I hear there's plans of a Costco coming into the Pensacola area within the next 5 years. That would be amazing because Costco is one of our top favorites. But yeah, the amenities really aren't quite there. I will note though that one thing that we do look forward to is the food truck parks that they do have lined up on 98, going all the way down and pretty much in between Fort Walton Beach and then over into Gulf Breeze. You have pockets with these food truck parks, and we love going there to get a little bit more of that variety. It is always nice though being able to have a sit down place to go, and it's just a lot harder during tourist season when we are talking about those restaurants. The 6th thing that I am going to be covering is the lack of master plans and even the housing that is in the Emerald Coast. It is older here. Again, we came from somewhere that had all these master communities that had multiple pools in them, that they had, their typical little shopping center in the middle of the neighborhood. That just really isn't here at all. Now, you do have pockets like, if we're talking about Cantonment, Beulah, Pace, going over to like even into Niceville, all these areas, you can find a little bit more of those master plan products, but they aren't your huge glamorous ones that you do see popping up in so many other states, like even Texas. Texas is like now known for the Houston area and all the amazing master plans that they are building around there. The majority of your new development is just going to be in pockets. And so you have a developer that comes in and buys up a couple acres, puts a nice little neighborhood in there. Majority of them aren't going to have pools, because when you're in Florida, a lot of people do have pools here. So I think these developers like, why would we spend our money on putting these pool products in? Majority of these owners are going to end up getting their own pool anyways. But yeah, you find these pockets, and you see this a lot like over in Navarre, where you have a builder, he'll come in and he'll buy up a couple acres and he'll put a row of like 5 to 10 houses, 5 and 10 brand new houses. Pace has been really good about this, where they are putting in a lot of new developments that are happening in a lot of new neighborhoods. Milton is getting there slowly, but I think that pretty much what's coming from Pace is overflowing into Milton. The area that I'm really excited about, which actually my wife and I are looking at investing in regards to land and stuff like that, is Cantonment Beulah area just north of Pensacola. I think this area has some real potential to be blowing up with some of these master plans. We will see what the future brings, but if you are planning on moving here to get that glamorous master plan that you can get in so many other states, you may not really like what you're going to find here. The 5th one that we always have to cover, and which is always a worry when you are moving into the Emerald Coast and Florida in itself, is hurricanes. Now, yes, okay, damage, fine, all right, it's like hurricane, I got to worry about a damage in my house, my property, and all that stuff. But outside of that, because we are so prone to hurricanes here, you also have to worry about your homeowner's insurance being a little bit higher. Florida actually just ranked the top state in regards to your homeowner's insurance. I think it was like just above $10,000 on average, whereas the national average is just above $2,000. Now, I will put a quick note on that, because we say that and people are like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be spending $10,000 on my homeowner's insurance. Not necessarily. The big reason that number is so high is you have a lot of these properties that are right on the ocean. Their property insurance gets up there quite a bit. I mean, we've heard numbers like $30,000 a year for homeowners insurance to live like right on the water. So that number is what's really pushing this number up, because for us personally, we own 2 properties up in the Emerald Coast. We own 1 down in Largo. None of those have more than $5,000 in homeowners insurance. Actually, 2 of them I think are right around $2,000 to $3,000. So don't take that number and think right off the bat, holy crap, my homeowner insurance is going to be insane. The more inland you get, it won't be as bad, since you are going to be a little bit further from that hurricane prone area. Also with that though, you need to make sure that you're constantly prepared, right? You need, just in case something happens. So we always talk about, your shutters, make sure you have a generator. We actually had a camper back in Colorado that we sold, but I was like, I'm keeping this damn generator just in the event that a hurricane happens and we need it in an emergency. You got your flashlights, your glow sticks, stuff like that. Always kind of having those things on hand, being prepared in the event that a hurricane does happen unexpectedly. And the last thing you want is to run to that grocery store and find out that everything that you are looking for to prepare for the hurricane is gone. Number 4 is going to be the cold weather. Now, people move into Florida because they want that warm weather, or there's 2 reasons, and actually my number 1 reason is going to be a big reason. I think it's one of the top reasons why people move to Florida. But you think Florida, you think sunshine, you think, warm weather, you think warm winters, you don't really have to worry about snow, which I'm not saying that we get snow here, but at the same time, up in the Emerald Coast, it does definitely get chilly. And we actually just experienced our first winter here, and it did drop into the 30s a few times. We actually lost a couple palm trees over the colder temperatures that were here in the Emerald Coast. Now, moving from Denver, we actually were looking forward to that. We didn't want to move somewhere that was just pretty much you experience summer and then mild summer. We wanted that fluctuation in our seasons, where up in the Emerald Coast, you pretty much get 3 seasons, right? Where you get summer, spring, and fall. And so technically 4, I guess, where you get like a mild winter where it does drop down and get a little bit chilly a few times within the winter months. But we wanted that personally. If that's something that you are not looking for though, you might want to go a little bit further south in Florida. Just for us personally, we did want that change in weather, and that is why we chose the Emerald Coast. With this cold weather though, I mentioned how we lost a few palm trees, and that was actually something on our fault. Apparently we didn't realize that you were supposed to wrap the trunks of them or something like that to keep that freeze from getting to them. But we did notice too, as soon as we moved here, some plants that we always saw down, because our other properties down in Clearwater, were like, oh man, I want these awesome hibiscus bushes, all these things. We can't do that here because of the zones. And we actually had someone comment recently, what are you talking about? You can't have palm trees in Pensacola. It's nothing like that. I'm not saying you can't have palm trees, but since we are in a different hardiness zone, Florida pretty much has 4 to 5 hardiness zones. South Florida, I believe, is like an 11A, whereas up here in the Emerald Coast, now you have this strip of the Emerald Coast, that's a 9B. And then once you get more on the mainland, it's a 9A. And when we were purchasing our big palm tree, the guy actually told us, he's like, listen, there's some palm trees that you can have here right on along the Emerald Coast that you can't really have up in Pensacola. That's just something that we really didn't look too much into, thinking that we are going to have all those tropical plants that we do experience down in South Florida, and we weren't able to have here. The 3rd reason why you shouldn't be moving into the Emerald Coast is the sharks and the jellyfish. There's actually a good side to the sharks here, but recently this last weekend we went out to the beach, went to hang out, and there was a ton of shark sightings. Right before we got there, a guy was like, yeah, there was a good 5-foot shark that literally swam right here, maybe like 20 feet right off of the beach right there. And it's something that you definitely need to look out for. If you ever go out into like the Pensacola Pier, you see sharks out there like right before sundown when everyone's out there fishing, and the sharks are all over out there. We've never really had a run-in with a shark here, but it's something that people are always aware about. And the good thing about it too is majority of the shark attacks are actually on the Atlantic. When we are talking about the Florida area, there's not too many that are happening here in the Emerald Coast as compared to that Atlantic side of things. And actually there was just a huge, I think they said it was a 15-foot hammerhead that was spotted down at 30A, which is pretty much right between, Destin and Panama City. I know last year, I think we had a pregnant great white that washed up. We had a hammerhead that washed up. I think both of those were over in Navarre. And so yes, you do have to worry about those sharks. More so though, I am worried about those jellyfish. Because when you're out there on the beach hanging out, maybe you're just boogie boarding or hanging out with your buds, staying in a circle, hanging out in the water, you'll definitely get stung by those jellyfish. And it is nothing like what you would expect if you've never been stung by jellyfish. It's just, you feel like, oh crap, got stung by a jellyfish. It's not that big. You get a little bit of a rash.
Call him Squishy, and he shall be mine, and he shall be my Squishy. Come here, Squishy. Come here, little Squishy. Ow!
Dory, that's a jellyfish!
Bad Squishy. bad, squishy.
Nothing crazy. I heard that there are some jellyfish you definitely do want to stay away from. And they actually have the purple flag that goes up that says, hey, you might want to stay out of the water. That's when we have those jellyfish that you might want to be a little bit more worried about. Chelsea and our son just did surf camp. And like, listen, I mean, we're a part of their habitat. As long as you respect them, you're not sitting here doing anything crazy to chase them or throw stuff at them. For the most part, you know, you're pretty safe. Just be aware and be cautious when you are in the water. The second reason why you should move into the Emerald Coast is going to be that utilities cost. This is something that we definitely recognize when moving here. Our utilities are going to be so much more expensive as compared to where we came from. And so I just looked up your national average, you know, based on the cost of living index on where it stands. And so if we talk about pretty much Pensacola, Gulf Breeze area, you got a 105.3 out of 100, where 100 is your national average. So it's just a little bit higher than your national average. If we bump down to Navarre Beach, you've got a cost of living index of 108. So it's actually a little bit more expensive over in the Navarre area as compared to the Pensacola area. Then if we go all the way down to Fort Walton Beach, Destin area, you got a cost of living index of 103.4. So definitely more than your national average. I'd say, so we have a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. I think our bill typically runs between $200 to $400 a month, depending on, you know, those super hot days or whether it's more your winter time where it's a lot cooler. With that though, we also have a pool. So with the pool running as much as it does, that does add to that power bill. So just to highlight that a little bit. And then we also have some friends that have some larger homes, and they said to cool that house down, you're looking at a bill of potentially $700 a month in order to cool your house down in the peak of summertime. And the number one reason why you shouldn't move into the Emerald Coast is the fact that it is super red here. Now, I'm going to go back to 2020. We're going back to 2020 and we're going to see what percentage of the vote that Trump got in 3 of these counties. Because when we are talking about this portion of the Emerald Coast that we talk about, Pensacola going all the way down to Destin, you got Escambia County, Santa Rosa County, and Okaloosa County. So just based off the 2020 election, Escambia County, which is definitely going to be the least red of the 3 counties, Trump got 56.7% of the vote. Santa Rosa County, which you're going to be talking about Gulf Breeze and Navarre, Trump got 72.1% of the vote. And then Okaloosa County, when we talk about Fort Walton Beach, Destin area, Trump got 68.6% of the vote. I will tell you though, this is a big reason why my family decided to relocate here. We personally came from somewhere that was super blue and we wanted to change the scene. We wanted to be somewhere that's a lot more traditional, but I know that some of you, it might rub the wrong way. I've actually got family members who tell me all the time how they would never move down here because how they are definitely a lot more liberal and they just feel like they wouldn't fit in. So if you are a little bit more on the liberal side of things, I'm not saying that you wouldn't fit in. I'm just trying to warn you that it is definitely much more conservative here as compared to some other areas within Florida. All right, thank you so much, guys. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. If you are planning on calling the Emerald Coast your next home, make sure you give us a call or text at that phone number right below. Right below it there, we always answer. It doesn't matter day or time. And if you're not quite ready to purchase, make sure you follow along updated with the most recent stuff that we bring to you in regards to the Emerald Coast by giving us a thumbs up, subscribe button, little notification bell, that way you're notified every single time that we put out a brand new video. You can probably tell I'm sweating a little bit. It is hot as can be out here right now. I'm gonna go back into the AC and enjoy that a little bit. And until next time, we love ya. Bye.